Welcome to our program on Kardec Radio. And now, here's our host, Dr. Vanessa Anceloni.
Welcome, dear listener, to Kardec Radio, and we are here live from the Chantilly, Virginia studios at Kardec Radio. Today, we're going to talk about family prayer, and we have the company of Ana Moreno from the Joanna de Angelis Spiritist Society in California. And it's a beautiful program because it's going to talk about the power of family prayer. We have many names to this: the gospel at home, the God at home, family prayer, whatever name. What is important is the action. We're going to get to know more the reasons why we need to do it and how we need to do it, how easily we can achieve it, how transformative it can be. Well, but before we go to the program, we are also going to share with you that this coming October 31st and November 1st, we are going to have a beautiful event in London. It's the Medical Spiritist Meeting. And we would like to invite you to join it by going to the website, buss.org.uk, to do your registration. Physicians from around the world are going to be there, and we think it's a phenomenal opportunity for you too. Right now, we're going to stream to you the tone of the program, Always in Peace by Joanna de Angelis, through Divaldo Franco, in the book and CD, Living and Loving, which, by the way, you can buy at the Spiritist Society of Baltimore's website, ssbaltimore.org. Let us listen to this message right after this. Ana Moreno.
Chapter 17, Always in Peace.
The violence that alarms mankind and bewilders the whole planet springs from the hidden aggressiveness within the hearts of people. It generates both instability and unhappiness. Any display of evil produces unexpected reactions that may lead to hopelessness and belligerence. Jesus advised, "Watch and pray that ye enter not into temptation." It was a warning to remind us to keep a balanced attitude and attend to our duties. Whatever the circumstances you might be struggling against, keep your peace. Be stern, but avoid rudeness. Enforce discipline, but avert violence. Promote education, but oppose aggressiveness. Whatever you do, do it peacefully. When mistreated or suffering, hold your peace at all costs so that you may keep your tranquility. Jesus was always calm, ineffable, and serene, regardless of circumstances around him. Real peace is rooted in absolute confidence in God. Remain undisturbed, do all the good you can, and do not line up with those who complain, are violent, or unreasonable. Your peace reveals your life as much as the way you live affects the environment around you.
Yes, dear listener, this is about a message that has a lot of food for thought. And we think this sets the tone for the program today because we're going to talk about how we create this foundation of peace at home. It's not easy because we need new conditionings, but it's possible. Many people around the world are already engaged into this very important opportunity. And Ana Moreno is here with us from the Joanna de Angelis Spiritist Society in California. Hi, Ana. How are you?
Hi, Vanessa. Good morning. How are you?
Good, thank you. So, Ana, we were talking about the fact that you are from the group Joanna de Angelis Spiritist Society in California. Can you tell the listeners from around the world a little bit about the history of the group?
Yes, of course. So our group was born in 1999. So a long time ago, in one of the members' house, they would basically do studies of the gospel, studies of the Spirit's book, and then as the group started to grow, Then we were able to find a place and start with a more structured type of classes and studies in a local in San Carlos, California. We are in North California.
All right. And how is the group doing today? What is happening there?
So the group is doing great. We usually work on Monday evenings and Sunday mornings. So we have many activities. One of them is actually is my favorite one, is a family study at the same time as we have the youth study. And that happens in the mornings on Sunday. And we have been able to study a few books from Joana de Angelis and also from Emmanuel, kind of helping us understand our responsibility as parents, as kids, and the importance of the family in our lives. On Monday evenings, we have also like the public lectures. We do have in Portuguese and also in English. We also have the study of the Spiritism in English. We are starting to have a few people coming that are non-Brazilians, which is very exciting. So we had kind of to start turning our menu of options, not only from Portuguese, but now having in English as well. So we have the mediumship group. We also have the study of the gospel. And for the coming year, as we are preparing our plan for the activities for next year, we're going to start opening other classes with the
That's wonderful. So the meetings are basically in English?
We have meetings in both Portuguese and English. Every first week of the month, we have all the activities in English, and the others are in Portuguese. One thing that we also started to do to be able to reach out to the English speaking people is to have virtual meetings. I mean, we are in the Bay Area. This is the place for technology. So why do not leverage it? So as you know, you've been one of our guests in our virtual sessions of, public lectures in English, which has been very well received. We got really good feedback in terms of, the content, but also the mean that we are using, because many times people cannot go to the center. They have kids. Majority of us work outside home, so it's hard. And kind of being able to connect to WebEx, for example, makes us much closer to the gospel.
And but how did you become a spiritist, Anna?
So I come from a fourth generation of spiritists, actually, and my grandfather. We used to have sessions at his house. This was a long time ago in the 80s, and that kind of came through my grandmother. Used a very good strategy with my mother. She would say that her eyesight was not very good, so she would make my mom, as a young child, like a teenager, start reading all the books from André Luiz. And when I was still on my mom's belly, that's when my mom started to attend the classes at Federação Espírita do Estado de São Paulo. So I think I've been kind of hearing the gospel even when I was in inside her belly.
Wow. But, it's interesting, Anna, because even though we come from a spiritist family, I often mention to people that we also made a choice being a spiritist, right, because it's not like second nature. Just because you're born in a spiritist family, you become a spirit. Do you agree?
Yeah, I totally agree. And this is kind of the philosophy that we use with our kids as well. I think that as parents, we have the responsibility to show the way to our kids, But any religion that leads us to God is good, is important. And then we need to let our kids have our choices. And that's exactly what happened at my house with my siblings. I think that my mom, she opened the door. And it's interesting because my mediumship started very early. So I started attending the classes at the Federação Espírita do Estado de São Paulo very young, much younger than I could have. But I guess because my mom was working there for so many years, they simply let me do that. And also because the mediumship was, there. I had to start to better understand and the gospel and also how it worked to my own sake. But again, to your point, I think that it's on us. It's what makes sense for us. And for me, the spiritism was something that nobody needed to explain to me. It made all the sense.
Yeah, and this is probably a sign, as you may feel it, that before you reincarnated, you already knew it and you were prepared to undertake the tasks that nowadays you're fulfilling. Do you think so?
Yeah, well, I think that we all have responsibilities. There is no, we don't come here without a reason, all of us, right? So I think that all of us are kind of a small piece of a big puzzle, and we come with a purpose. So there is a pre-planning that is done when we are in the spiritual realm. And I don't know, I can tell you exactly what it is, but I guess it's when we know that something is right, we can just not run from that responsibility per se. So in my case, I have the mediumship in a very strong way. I come from a spiritist family. I cannot deny that this is real. I mean, it's nobody telling me. I see things, I feel things. So I think that avoiding it will be kind of running away of our responsibility, really.
Yeah. And as you're talking about responsibility, fulfilling it, and pre-planning in life, reincarnatory plan, this year we're celebrating 150 years of the book Heaven and Hell by Kardec. And there are many cases, almost all the cases are already in audio format at Kardec Radio's website. And do you have a preferred passage of the book?
I think, first of all, I think that that's an incredible book. And the first part that Allan Kardec basically kind of brings down to earth, kind of comparing the Christian beliefs, the Catholic beliefs, that heaven, hell, purgatory, and with kind of with what we believe as spiritists. But the second part, that he has all those testimonies, is just heart shaking, and thinking that they were able to double check if those people really existed, and if what those mediums were hearing made sense. Yes, and I do have one that I like that made me really think, which is a person called Claire. She wasn't a mean person at all. That's in the under the spirits who suffer. It's in the second part of the book. And even though she was not a mean person, she was very selfish. She lived for the material things, basically. So she was in a good situation. Seems that she was beautiful. She was in a good family. She was very selfish, and then she dies. And it was because she was so selfish and she didn't really care for other people. She suffers a lot. It's not that she has obsessors that keep kind of chasing her or anything and making her life miserable on the other side, but because she didn't take her responsibility, she didn't use well her time while incarnated, she suffers. So for me, that's kind of a wake-up call that, what we hear from Kardec, that on the Spirit's book, that we are not only responsible for the bad things that we do or the good things that we do, but we are also responsible for every time that we have the opportunity to do something good and we don't.
Exactly.
Make us reflect in terms of how are we using our time, thinking that while in Earth, this is not the real life. We are spending limited amount of time here, but our real life is in the spiritual realm. So how are we making our choices here?
Yep, it's true. And by the way, to illustrate a little more to the listeners, we're gonna listen to the very case of Louis and Victorine, and right after this, Anna, Moreno, and I will discuss a little bit about it before we enter the very topic of family prayer.
Louis and the Boot Stitcher.
For 7 or 8 months, a cobbler named Louis G. wooed a young female boot stitcher named Victorine R., whom he was soon to marry. The wedding banns had already been published. Due to the state of affairs, these two young people considered themselves to be almost united for good. And for economic reasons, the cobbler came each day to have his meals with his bride-to-be. Louis came as usual one day to have supper at his fiancé's. They had a fight over some petty matter, and with both holding stubbornly to their own opinions, things escalated to the point where Louis left the table and swore he would never return again. Nevertheless, the next day, he went to ask her for forgiveness. Night is a good counselor, so the saying goes. But the girl believed that perhaps the scene from the night before might happen again after it was too late to remedy the evil. She refused to reconcile. Neither protests nor tears nor desperate pleas could make her yield. Several days had passed since their quarrel, and Louis hoped that his beloved would be more reasonable, so he decided to make one last attempt at reconciliation. When he arrived at her home, he knocked in a way that let her know it was him, but she refused to open the door. Renewed appeals on the part of the poor young man and protests made through the door failed to touch the heart of his speechless fiancée.
"Farewell, then, cruel girl,"
exclaimed the poor man.
"Farewell forever. Just try to find a husband who loves you as much as I do."
The girl then heard a muffled groan, soon followed by a thud, as if an object had fallen, sliding against the door. Afterward, all was silent. She thought that Louis had sat down on the doorstep to wait for her to leave, and so she decided not to go out while he was still there. Around 15 minutes later, another tenant, carrying a lantern, came upon the scene and let out a scream, crying for help. Neighbors rushed over, and Miss Victorine also opened her door. She let out a cry of horror at seeing her fiancé stretched out on the floor, pale and lifeless. Everyone hastened to help him, but it soon became clear that it was all of no use, that he was dead. The poor young man had buried a knife in his heart, and it remained sticking in the wound. Parisian Spiritist Society, August 1853. To the Spirit, St. Louis. As the unintentional cause of her lover's death, was the young woman at all responsible for it?
Yes, because she didn't actually love him to begin with.
Then, in order to have prevented this unfortunate event, should she have married him in spite of her repugnance?
She was looking for an excuse to break up with him. She did towards the beginning of the relationship what she would have done later anyway.
Then in that case, did her responsibility result from her having fed sentiments that she herself did not share, and which eventually resulted in the young man's suicide?
Yes, precisely.
Her responsibility in this case should then be in the proportion to her wrong, and thus not as great as if she had willingly provoked his death.
Obviously.
Is Louis' suicide excusable due to the torment into which Victorine's stubbornness plunged him?
Yes, because a suicide out of love is less criminal in God's eyes than a suicide of someone who wants to be freed from life for cowardly reasons.
When evoked later, the spirit of Louis G. was asked the following questions. What do you think about what you did?
Victorine was an ingrate, and I was wrong in committing suicide because of her. She wasn't worth it.
She didn't love you then?
No, at first she thought she did. She had that illusion. However, the scene that I caused opened her eyes, and she was happy at having found a pretext to get rid of me.
And you, did you love her sincerely?
Only out of passion, that is all I think. If my love had been pure, I wouldn't have wanted to cause her any grief.
If she knew that you really would kill yourself, would she have persisted in her refusal?
I don't know. I don't think so, because she isn't a bad person. However, she would have been unhappy, and it is better for her that things turned out as they did.
When you knocked on her door, did you have the idea to kill yourself in case of rejection?
No, I hadn't even thought of it. I didn't think she would still be so obstinate. It was only when I saw her stubbornness that I lost my mind.
It seems that you don't regret your suicide, except for the fact that Victorine wasn't worth it. Is that the only feeling you have?
For now, I'm still totally confused. It seems like I'm still at her door, but I'm feeling something else I can't quite figure out.
Will you be able to figure it out later?
Yes, when my mind clears up. What I did was wrong. I should have left her alone. I was weak, and now I'm suffering the consequences of my weakness. Mind you, passion blinds a man and makes him do stupid things, and he only realizes it when it's too late.
When you said you had one regret, what is it?
I was wrong to have shortened my life. I shouldn't have done it. I should have endured it instead of ending it before the proper time. And now, afterward, I'm unhappy. I'm suffering, and it's always Victorine who makes me suffer. I still seem to be there at the door, the ingrate. Don't talk to me any more about this. I don't want to think about it. It makes me feel really bad. Goodbye.
This case, once again, is a further proof of the justice that presides over the distribution of punishment according to the degree of responsibility of the guilty party. Here, the first wrong is perpetrated by the young woman for having nourished in Louis a love she did not share. Thus, she bears the greatest part of the responsibility. As for the young man, he is being punished by the suffering he endures. However, his punishment is lighter because he did nothing more than give in to a thoughtless impulse and a moment of excitement rather than to the cool premeditation of those who commit suicide in order to evade the trials of life.
Yes, dear listener, this is the case of Louis and Victorine, and it tells us a lot of many things. And I will also make a comment here before I pass on the word to Ana Moreno. When in all of these books by Kardec, the word punishment is being used, I know many people say, oh, that's too heavy. But remember, at Kardec's time, the word punishment, of course, had a similar meaning, but it didn't weigh as heavy as it is nowadays in our society. Because now we have a different mindset. We're more merciful and kind. But what he meant is about education.
that's when I read the word punishment, I read correction, education. It's a way to transform the person, ourselves. It's not the punishment from God to us, because God doesn't punish us at all. We're the ones who punish ourselves. Our own conscience triggers that feeling of being punished. So right now we have here Ana Moreno, who will share a little bit about her take on the case of Louis and Victorine in the book Heaven and Hell by Kardec. Anna.
I thought that was very interesting that I think that we all make mistakes here, and then that's all kind of taking in consideration, and kind of that specific one kind of talks about the facts of life, the action and reaction, the responsibility of each one of the parts. So the man who made a wrong choice to commit suicide, his responsibility, but also the responsibility of the woman who didn't treat him with respect. So even though she didn't kind of stab him, she was co-responsible from a spiritual way, which by the laws of the man, she would not be guilty at all. But the beauty behind is that I think each one of us is greater than our mistakes, than our imperfections, that we should see those mistakes as accidents, as a result that we are not connected with this divine love, divine force, and that's what causes us to suffer. So to your point in terms of punishment, it's about our choices, right?
Exactly. And Anna, in this case, it's quite interesting too, the fact that, we talk about family formation. In this case, also touches that subject. Marriage is by convenience and not by feelings. And here we learn about the spiritual side of the story. It's quite surprising when we get to know that from a spiritual perspective, not loving the person and being married for whatever explanation and excuse makes us responsible for whatever else is happening too. Because in this case, the man got desperate. He didn't plan on it, but she pushed him to the edge of his emotions, for she didn't really love him. So we're talking about family formation here. What are your thoughts in that regard?
Well, I guess I'm a little biased. I see that our family is the most important job, per se, that we have here in our incarnation. So our responsibility with our spouse, and I know that family has changed along the years, so there are very different types of families these days. And the most important point, as you were saying, is this respect and love that should prevail between the spouse and between the parents and their kids. Every time that we try to get away from that responsibility, we are creating suffering for ourselves, because, as I was saying, we are kind of distancing ourselves from the divine love, from our main responsibility. And to what we were talking about, we are together because of a reason. It's no accident. This is not by chance. So we do have some work to do together. Our progress, our moral progress, our spiritual progress, our intellectual progress. We are responsible to what we do to the members of the family.
Exactly. And you were talking about dedicating ourselves to somebody else's happiness, and it reminds me of a case of Chico Xavier in which a young lady approached him and said, "Oh, Chico, I would like to ask a question to your mentor, Emmanuel, because I have some need in my heart. I have this emptiness inside of me. Can you please ask him what is missing inside of me? Because I don't know what it is. I have my profession, I have my resources, my house is very comfortable, my family is well adjusted, I work in spiritedness and medium, but something is missing inside of me." And then Chico turned to her and answered by delivering Emmanuel's very words. And he said, "Well, what is missing for you is the joy of others, other people's joy." And he said, "You will only be happy when you make other people happy too. So you need to share and help others as well." So, and this includes within the family, because how many people, as we know, and they have a family, but as they're saying, they don't prioritize it. Everything else is a priority. And we see children who are being raised in spite of the parents' affections, and husband and wife or partners, because nowadays it's like partnership. It could be husband and wife, husband and husband, wife and wife. And people don't even pay attention to each other's needs and how anything that we do or something is going to change their happiness. So what do you think, Anna, could potentially fuel a better dynamic in the families of our world?
I think that every time that we stop and think about our lives beyond this, 60, 70, 80, 100 years here, we can evaluate how we are prioritizing our time, how we are prioritizing our days, our activities, and that kind of goes back to the family prayer conversation that we are having today, right?
Exactly.
We are so good in finding time to do things that are not that relevant and important to our moral or spiritual progress. So we find time to kind of work. We usually want a better job, a larger house, a nicer car, or we are concerned about our looks and the things that make us happy in terms of I need my time, like I need to go to the gym, or I need to take care of myself and exercise. But and I'm not saying that that's not important. What I'm just saying is very rarely we stop to connect with God, to make this reconnection, which is the tool that the religion is for us, the religious feeling is for us, to evaluate, okay, so am I doing what I am expected to do? I am providing what other people need, other people in my family? Am I there for my kids? Because all of us who work outside home, I mean, we have always more things to do than hours in a day. So, it's between taking the kids to school, taking the kids to whatever practice they do, homework, but how much quality time I am spending with them during a day? And I'm not saying driving here and there, point A to point B. I'm saying being present, looking at their eyes, understanding how they feel, passing to them the right values. And the same thing with our husbands. So we come to the same house. Are we having dinner together? Are we talking? Are we reconnecting? Do we remember why we got married in the first place?
Exactly.
Or we're just talking about the bills and the kids' problems and the troubles that we have at work without really connecting. And I think that when we start to pray at home, those small number of minutes, it's a way to put a break on time And we
Mm-hmm.
think in terms of, the real values for the family through the gospel.
Exactly. And as the case of Louis and Victorine, it begins with those who form the family, the future parents. And we need to ask ourselves, because I know nowadays we're talking about Victorine potentially being engaged and getting married to Louis by convenience. He was a cobbler, she was a boots teacher. God knows what's happening at the time, and she was, at that time it was a little different. But nowadays I hear even men saying, well, I think it's convenient for me because she has a good job, she has a good profession, she has the status, blah, blah, blah. And then we ask, what is the reason why you're getting married? Because later on, everything just unfolds according to the foundation. So I remember Anna Chico Xavier recommending about for all spiritists, we should have courses on marriage to prepare people for marriage, courses for parents to prepare people to be parents, in the spiritist sense of the courses, like a spiritist take of marriage. And I think it's probably going to prevent a lot of problems, making people think about it. Now, we know that prayer can be quite effective in securing the spiritual vibrations of the home. So we talk about family prayer. What is it? We can name it gospel at home, God at home, family prayer. What is it exactly, Anna?
Well, every time that we pray at home alone or with the other members of the family, we're basically inviting Jesus to come and visit us. So we are opening formally the door. And if we just stop and think about that, if we had the opportunity, for example, to invite a person that we have very high regards, it could be a scientist or a president or a musician, whoever that person is. Can you imagine being able to have that person come in and visit you once a week? And suddenly, with praying at home, we have the opportunity to bring to our house, our own house, the spirit with the largest magnitude that we have known. So, a pure spirit, the governor of our planet, and the example, the master that we have to follow.
But the problem is this, okay, we have listeners in 77 countries, not necessarily they know about Jesus. For those who are listening to us, they are not familiar with Jesus, praying to God is the goal, right?
Yes. So the goal is really to reconnect us with God. That's it. And that's where the beauty of all the religions and what I was saying before, that there's not just one truth, right? So what works for me or works for you may not work for everyone, and that's fine. The purpose of the religion is the religious sentiment.
But what is the power? But Anna, what is the power of praying in family? Why in family? Because I know many people who pray by themselves, and to pray within the family has a different aspect in terms of the dynamics. Can you tell us a little bit about the difference?
I think we can look at it as a metaphor. Every time that we do something together, or we are stronger. For example, if I try to tear a piece of paper, very easy for me. If I try to tear 5 pieces of paper, harder. If I try to tear a book, impossible. So the strength of our prayer becomes stronger when we are praying together, when we are all focusing on the same goal, on the same sentiment. So not only unites the people who are within that room, but also it kind of makes that connection stronger with the good spirits.
So right now, many people are listening to us and they're asking, how do I do it? How should we do this family prayer?
So I think that the first step is to talk to your family, explain the importance of the family prayer home, and ask, is there a day, a time that would work better for everyone? Invite if they want to join, and of course, if they do not want to join you, if they have a different belief, we need to respect the freedom of others without sorrow, and do it alone. So, but if they accept, then understand what's the time that the family is available, what day to be used. Define that in a very disciplined day. That okay, so every Sunday at 9 p.m. we're gonna be together here for 15, 20 minutes, and the time doesn't need to be long, because the power of prayer is not how extensive it is or complicated words. It's much more how connected we are with God. So after we have the day, the time, that we know who is going to be there, so we need to prioritize the appointments that we have. So again, I have to be conscious that I will be doing this instead of going to the movies, or instead of dining out, or instead of being at my work, or things like that. So I read the gospel in an audible voice. It is dynamic.
Or can it be any other book? Again, for those who are not familiar with Jesus,
Yes.
And they can read any other book, like any inspirational message book, right?
A spiritual type of message, whatever makes sense for them to reconnect to the higher entity that they believe. So read that out loud. Usually the learning is better assimilated. It's easier assimilated when we do that. We usually make some comments, observations about what is being read. In our case, what we do is that when we pray, we use as kind of an opening prayer just the Lord's Prayer. But again, the prayer that you're gonna use, be very what makes sense for you. We use it just because it's something that makes sense for us. We can always go ahead.
And people can if you're doing it in a family, each person can say a word, or different people can say the prayer and the reading of the message, right?
Yeah, it's important to engage everyone on kind of this activity. So even though there is a person leading, kind of engage different people in the family. One to read, ask the comments about what has been read to everyone. Ask one person to do the opening prayer. Ask another person to do the final prayer. In our website, which is jazzsociety.org, we do have a guideline on how to do the prayer in the family, what to read, how to comment, and if we need to do a personal request. It's important to engage the entire family on this activity, so everybody feels like it's are part of it.
And we would like to recommend also a book for those who are familiar with Jesus, or would like to be familiarized and want to make the reading of his passages There's this book, Jesus in the Home, psychographed by Chico Xavier, The Spirit is Neo Lucio, which is already available in English. It's in ediceiofamerica.com's website, ediceiofamerica.com, and there you're going to find the book. It's beautiful, right, Anna? And it can be very straightforward in the use of these family prayers, correct?
Yes, that book is very nice, kind of showing Jesus doing kind of their own prayers with the apostles, and kind of showing us the reflections that he does in terms of the what was being studied, and bringing that to the reality, the day-to-day reality that they had at that time.
Exactly. So, Anna, we're going to give a short break. When we come back, we have more about family prayer and the effects of family prayer in our families. Okay, Anna?
Sounds good.
We will return to our program after these messages.
New release, Liberation. In this compelling narrative, Andre Luiz emphasizes the work of high-order spirits in the effort to convert the spirit Gregorio to the good, an effort that culminates with the unforgettable re-encounter with his mother, herself a highly evolved spirit, wherein he surrenders to the irresistible call of love. The book also contains information on how unhappy spirits act as they try to involve incarnates in their wiles. The spirit author tells of the intercession of high-order spirits on behalf of human beings, demonstrating the divine compassion that grants to all the blessed opportunity to free themselves by means of study, labor, and persevering service in the practice of the good. Buy your copy today at www.ediceiofamerica.com.
Spread the word. Kardec Radio, to learn more about Spiritism.
Want spiritual books for your children? At Edicei of America, you will find a collection of them. From the best-selling book, Our Father, in which the Spirit Mei through Chico Xavier brought countless poems, stories, and folk tales based on the Lord's Prayer, to the beautiful and educational collection by the author Adelson Sales on Back to School and many others. Buy your copy today at www.ediceiofamerica.com.
Nourish your soul with Kardec Radio.
If you missed out on previous shows, no worries. We have an on-demand sections of all previous shows and interviews. Go to our website, www.kardecradio.com.
Nourish your soul with Kardec Radio.
So, dear listener, here we are back to talk about the very effects of the family prayer. And Anna Moreno is here with us. She's from the Joanna de Angelis Spiritist Society in Northern California. And Anna, when I'm recalling a passage here of a book that is already in English, Emmanuel's book through Chico Xavier, titled Renunciation. And there we have a passage in which Father Damiano and is doing a family prayer, and he's talking to the main character of the book, Alcione, and she is talking about the importance of praying together. And I remember she's explaining to the head of the family and other people when she is asked, why do we do this in a family if we can do this at a church or at a temple? And she explains the very thing that you mentioned to us at the very beginning. We should bring that temple to our homes. Otherwise, we'll never find peace and harmony and build a better world. So, it's so important because of its effects. What are the potential effects of family prayer, Anna?
There are so many positive results, and I think as we persevere on this kind of a disciplined, organized way of praying together at home, we will see that pray improves our self-conscience. We are reminded by the examples that we believe, and then we can better live those examples, kind of bring that to our life. If we are studying Jesus' words, then kind of him as our master, kind of what he thought, what he taught us in terms of what's right and what's wrong. I think that the other aspect is around protection. So every time that we think good things, we connect to good things, we are inspired by good spirits. We all have this concern of cleaning our house, vacuuming the floor, doing the hygiene in the bathrooms. Mm-hmm. What about the spiritual dust that we bring from outside? So we come nervous, we come with our problems. Everybody has problems at work or health problems or whatever type of problem. So as we pray, we cleanse our home from all that spiritual dust, all this dirt that we bring to our houses. But above all, I think it's an opportunity to create a habit of having this fraternal meeting among our family members and accentuate this sense of love among all of us. On the moments that we are going through any difficulties, whatever difficult that could be, material or spiritual difficulties, we should follow what Jesus told us, which is to pray and be mindful in terms of what we feel, what we think, and what we do. And that's exactly following these guidelines, this recommendation that he gave us.
Mm-hmm. And for others as well who'd like, as you're saying, I just recalled this beautiful passages. It's actually several chapters in the book The Messengers by André Luiz through Chico Xavier, in which he describes what is happening in the spiritual realm while we're doing the family prayer. And everything that you just explained, if people want to visualize it, because he gives a good description of the case, people can read in the book The Messengers from chapters 33 to 38. And now, what if somebody in our family or no one wants to join us? What do we do? Or what should we do?
Yeah, so that's totally fine. I think our role here is to invite people. If they do not want to join us or do not believe in spiritism or do not have a religion, we need to respect their freedoms, their options, and do it by ourselves without any sorrow. It's our responsibility. If I know that this is important, I should do it. And I can choose any place. So I know some people that are from Federação Espírita de São Paulo that didn't have any support for the family. They didn't like spiritism. They didn't believe in God. So the person used to do her gospel in the bathroom because she couldn't do it any other place. And again, some people come to me asking me, so is there a right place to do it at home? Do I need to do it in the dining table? Do I need to put this white towel on the table? No. The temple is inside. It's inside our hearts. The important thing is, how am I connecting with my spiritual, guides, or how I am connecting with God. Doesn't matter where I am at home. Of course, if I have other people to join me, as we were talking about, this joint prayer is more powerful. But I can always do it by myself if it's needed, without being concerned in terms of, the place.
What about the
where
place,
to do it.
Anna? What about the place in our homes? Is there a better place in which we shall do it? Or because when we think about, the whole family, if the whole family is not gathering together, then, let's say they are using the living room for something else, and then we want to do the prayer. And is there a problem doing it, like, for example, in the bathroom?
No, so that's what I was
If that's
saying.
the only quiet place?
No, that's exactly what I was saying. I don't know if I broke up. I had a friend from Federação Espírita that used to do in the bathroom, mostly because the family members did not accept the Spiritism or didn't believe in God. So I can do my prayer anywhere. The connection happens inside my heart. The important thing is what I am feeling, what I'm thinking, how present I am in the moment. Some people like to do it in the dining table because that's where we receive our daily bread in a material sense. So why not receive as well the spiritual bread? But if I cannot use my dining table, my living room, I can do it wherever I want. Because the important part is not where I am, but how I am connecting with the spiritual realm, the good spirits at that time.
And what about for those who have children?
I would suggest
because
them
it changes
to invite,
the dynamics.
Yeah, I would invite. That's what I do with my kids. I have 2 little kids. To have a separate gospel just for them. Mostly when they are little, that it's very hard to keep their attention for a long time. Also, kind of make choices in terms of what the appropriate books, and I think that you guys have available some stories, some little kids books that would tell kind of a moral aspects, moral stories that I think would be very helpful to go with them. Also use an appropriate language with them, because many times the gospel, the books that we are reading, they have this adult type of language with a more enriched vocabulary that many times the kids, the little ones, cannot grasp. So make sure that we have maybe shorter gospel kind of prayers at home with our kids, using books that are more appropriate for them, and using a language that they can understand. I also invite my kids to do the opening prayer, the closing prayer. They do know how to pray, and it's critical for them to kind of get engaged since the very beginning. It's our responsibilities as parents, because if in one hand we help them make the right choices in terms of what they eat, we need to make the right choices in terms of the spiritual food that they are having as well.
Exactly. So, Anna, right now as we are wrapping up the program, I know many people who are listening to us, they're probably for the first time hearing about the possibility of doing family prayer. Many people are not raised doing prayers at all or imagining in families. For those who are feeling desperate or having true family issues to be resolved, what would you like to share as your final comment for them?
Perseverance. So as you understand the importance of praying, do your best to have that implemented in your heart, in your home. It doesn't matter where what you call home. And you will see the results, the positive results in your family, in your life. That is real. We can change how we feel and the environment around us with prayer. So be strong, kind of finding time to pray, to connect to whoever, higher spirit you believe. And you will see the difference. I think that Kardec Radio is another very good way to help us pray, to reconnect, to slow down, to take us, to refocus from our problems to other thoughts, and use that as well as a tool before preparing for your family prayer.
That's beautiful. Talking about prayer, Anna would like to finish the program as we usually do with a final prayer. Would you kindly lead us into this final prayer, please?
Yes, thank you. Dear God, thank you very much for the meeting this morning, this healthy conversation, the opportunity to rethink about our priorities and the importance of reconnecting with the superior spirit. Help us, God, follow the right path, transform ourselves into better people, bring to our hearts and our homes all the positiveness and peace that we can. May your joy, may your love be with us now and during all the week. Thank you for all the blessings, invisible blessings that we receive every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna, for your presence. Thank you for your kindness and the knowledge you shared with us. Again, if people would like to connect to the Joana de Angelis Spiritist Society in California, they can go to, can you repeat the website for us, please?
Yes. Sorry, it's www.jazzsociety, it's JASSOCIETY.org. Again, www.jazzsociety.org. And
Thank
then
you so
on that
much.
website, they can not only kind of learn more about the activities that we have here in Northern California, but also the guidelines on how to implement the family prayer at their home.
Wonderful. Thank you so very much for your presence and for your help here with us today. And for those who are listening to us, remember tomorrow, Sunday, at 8 p.m., Kardec Radio has the program, Spiritist Awareness. Spiritist Awareness is about hosts from around the world sharing little segments about the teachings of Spiritism. It's very interesting, and it's new every weekend. Though it's not live because it's pre-recorded, there's so many hosts around the world doing this program. We have one fresh program every Sunday. And on Wednesdays, we have for you the teachings of No Solar. Can you believe Mackenzie Nell and Francisca Kranz wrapped up the beautiful reading and discussion of the book No Solar? This coming week, Francisca and I are discussing about, the book and bridging it up to the next book that they're going to start, The Messengers. So stay tuned with us this Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And, Thursdays, Vanessa Shives from Seattle is streaming another Spiritist talk for you. Spiritists from around the world sharing their knowledge in Spiritism. You may be asking, what's happening next Saturday? It's going to be August 1st. And we're dedicating a special program on how to educate children from a Spiritist perspective. We just talked about family prayer. It's so interesting. We talked about fertility treatments the week before. Today we talked about family prayer. Next week we're going to talk about educating children from a Spiritist perspective, and the psychologist and Spiritist Jill Rustis from Florida is going to be here with us to help us understand about how to educate children from a spiritist perspective. This and much more at Kardec Radio. If you have any question or suggestion, please write to us at Kardec Radio. We are always happy to listen from you. Right now, we'd like to invite you to keep feeling the blessings of God always.
Thank you for listening to Kardec Radio, broadcasting live every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Email us and share your comments at www.kardecradio.com. Until next time, we wish you many blessings.